Hello again. Good afternoon because I'm recording this video afternoon. Okay, so our topic for today is let me wait. So our topic is discount. So what is discount? Discount on a negotiable paper. Okay, is the difference between the present worth and the future worth. Okay. Discount is interest paid in advance. So this is something that is practiced by many lending companies, uh, like mga cooperatives din nata. They are practicing this principle, the principle of discount. So when you borrow a money, let's say for example, you borrowed a 10,000 pesos, you want to borrow 10,000 pesos, okay, and you're going to pay that the amount after a year, okay, and the computed interest is 1,000. Yung computed interest mo is 1,000. So ang ma-receive mo na amount is 9,000 pesos yung ma-receive mo na amount because you're going to pay in advance the interest, okay, na 1,000. So ang ma-receive mo ngayon ay 9,000, okay, pero ang babayaran mo 10,000 after a year. So that's the concept of discount. Iba yung discount dun sa market, ano. So ito yung discount natin in terms of financial matters. Okay, so ito yung interest natin is 1,000. Okay, i-subtract natin ito. So yung discount natin is the difference between yung future cost, okay, the amount and the present, yung marireceive mo na cash. Okay, that is in this case 9,000. So usually yan ang practice sa mga lending institutions. Okay, and how do we compute for the rate of discount? The rate of discount is equal to yung discount, yung difference ng future tsaka present value or worth divided by the principal. The principal here is ito, yung future, yung babayaran mo, hindi yung marireceive mo, yung babayaran mo. Okay, so that is rate of discount, or we can also solve for the rate of discount in terms of the interest. If given yung interest natin, yung rate of interest natin, we can solve for the rate of discount. And the interest can also be solved given yung discount. We can also solve for the interest using this particular formula. Okay, so let's try to solve an illustrative problem to illustrate how to compute for discount and other related concepts. So a man borrowed 5,000 from a bank and agreed to pay the loan at the end of 9 months. Okay. The bank discounted the loan and gave him 4,000 in cash. So 5,000 yung hinihiram niya. Okay, hiniram I should say. And binigyan siya ng 4,000. So, ang discount niya of course is the difference between the borrowed amount and the received amount, which is 4,000. Okay. And then what was the rate of discount? We solved for the rate of discount. What was the rate of interest? And what was the rate of interest in 1 year? Since 9 months ito, what if convert natin into 1 year, what would be the interest in a year? So let's try to solve the first. What was the rate of discount? So the rate of discount is simply equal to discount over principal. Discount is the difference between the future and present worth, which is we have 5,000 minus 4,000, that is 1,000, divided by 5,000. Okay, so that is the rate of discount. This is equal to 0.2, or that is 20% yung rate of discount natin. Then letter B, we solve for the rate of interest. So we can solve for the rate of interest if we know the rate of discount. Okay, it's equivalent to D, which is 0.2 divided by 1 minus 0.2. So the rate of interest is equal to 0.25, or that is 25%. So take note, magkaiba ang discount, rate of discount and rate of interest. Okay, and letter C, if convert natin yung 9 months into a year, what would be the rate of interest? Okay, so gawin natin 1 year. So we rate of discount, we can use yung simple interest formula. I is equal to P and I. So we have the interest is equal to P. So we're solving for the value of I, yung interest in 1 year. So we know that the interest is 1,000. Yung interest, yan yung difference ng future and the present worth. So we have 1,000 is equal to, we have the present worth, which is 4,000. Yun yung na-receive mo na amount, times N. What is N? So 9 months, gawin natin 1 year. So we have na, i-divide natin. So we have 12 months in a year. So 9 divided by 12 times yung interest rate natin in 1 year. So we have 0.3333, or that is equal to 33.33% yung rate of interest natin for 1 year. Okay, so these are the answers. Okay, so that's it. So ganun lang mag-solve ng discount and solve for a rate of interest given yung amount of discount natin. Okay, let's proceed to the next topic, that is inflation. Okay, next is inflation. So what is inflation? Perhaps you have heard this term before sa news, inflation rate, and perhaps you have learned this concept before in your social sciences subjects. Okay. So in national economies frequently experience inflation. You know, every country experiences inflation. Sometimes it is rare that we experience yung mura ng mga commodities, no? But we usually experience inflation, yung pagtaas ng cost or yung value ng mga commodities, no? So every country experiences inflation in which the cost of goods and services increases from 1 year to the next. So inflation decreases the purchasing power of money. I think I have discussed this before in the introduction, no, sa chapter natin, that inflation decreases the value of money, no? So pwedeng you have the same amount, may 1 million ka ngayon, but the value of that money after 5 years is no longer equal to 1 million. Although they have the same amount, but the value would be different because would be lower, you know, usually because of inflation and many other factors. Okay, so normally inflationary increases are expressed in terms of percentages which are compounded annually. So annual yung computation natin ng inflation. But sometimes if you've heard yung mga reports from DBM or from other financial institutions, meron tayong monthly inflation. But usually inflations are converted into an annual equivalent, no? So yung average na annual inflation. Okay, so So since inflation affects the cost of commodities, yung cost ng commodity would be higher. So yung cost niya ngayon, tataas yan in the future because of inflation, no? And of course, that affects now the purchasing power of your money. Yung pwede mo sanang bilhin ngayon pero hindi mo binili. So next year, because of inflation, tumaas yung presyo, you still have the same amount of money. You can no longer buy that commodity because of inflation. So it increases the prices of commodities and decreases the purchasing power or buying power of money. So how do you compute for the future cost of a certain commodity with the effect of inflation? So we have a future cost, the present cost of the commodity times, so 1 plus f here is the inflation rate, raised to n. So n would be the number of years, since inflation is compounded annually. Okay, so yan, that's how we compute for the future cost of a certain commodity. So this is still the same formula that we have used before sa compound interest, no? Nagiba lang kasi instead of using interest, we use inflation. So later on we will discuss paano kapag mag-combine yung interest tapos yung inflation rate, what we're going to do. So although the derivation is I think tama, meron sa module yung derivation, but I will no longer discuss that dito sa video natin, no? That would prolong our discussion. Okay, so ito naman yung the next formula is since inflation affects the purchasing power of money, yung pera natin, so we can compute the future purchasing power or future value ng pera natin in terms of with the effect of inflation. So ito yung halimbawa, ito yung ating present amount of money. So we are computing for the future value of our money. Ito yung present, and it should be the effect of the inflation rate, no? So that this would define the buying or purchasing power of our money. So kapag nag-invest ka ng pera, you should always consider yung inflation rate. So you should compare yung rate of return, okay, yung kikitain ng pera mo every year, and then yung inflation rate. So dapat mas mataas yung kinikita ng pera mo every year compared sa inflation para ma-preserve yung value ng pera natin, no? So unlike kapag nilagay mo sa alkansya, no, naipon mo for many years, so hindi siya kumikita, wala siyang tubo, no? So yung amount ng pera natin would be yung value ng pera natin would be lower in the next years, na because of inflation. So dapat yung pera natin, we should, kung meron namang viable na pwedeng paglagyan or pag-investan ng pera, then we should try to invest our money para kumita, no? Para yung value niya, yung purchasing power niya ay tumaas. Okay? So yan. We can also compute for i-combine naman natin. How about nag-invest tayo sa from the let's look at it from the eye of an investor. So meron tayong interest. Pag nag-invest tayo, may kinikita yung tubo, yan yung interest. Pero every year meron ding inflation. That means yung purchasing power ay bumababa. So dapat pag nag-compute tayo, let's always consider yung interest. Pag nag-compute tayo ng investment natin, so we'd always try to look into the interest, yung tubo ng pera natin, and of course the inflation. There's another factor later on na included dito, That would be a separate topic na lang. Let's try to combine these three factors in computing for the future value or purchasing power of our money with respect to a certain period of time. So, pag kinombine natin yung effect ng interest ng investment natin, yung tubo niya, and yung inflation, this would be the resulting formula to solve for the future value of our money. Again, the derivation is in your modules. Very simple lang naman yung derivation. It's just a simple manipulation of the formulas. No? Okay. And next, if we consider this value, this term, no? So itong 1 plus I all over 1 plus F as a single term, convert natin. We call that the composite interest. It's a combined effect of interest and inflation rate. Now let's convert that to a single item or term in the equation. That would be the ratio of these two. So that would be equal to the composite, we call that the composite interest, so that when we compute for the future value or the purchasing power of money with respect to a certain period of time, this term would be reduced to a single term na lang. Ito. So, ayan. Galing siya dito na formula. Okay? So, please try to remember all of this formula. Although sa mga exams yun naman, automatic na open naman yun. No? Open formula, open notes because we cannot control. No? Okay lang naman. No? No problem. Okay? So, yan. And let's try to solve this problem. Number 1. An economy is experiencing inflation rate of 6% per year. An item presently costs 5,000. Yung commodity or an item presently costs 5,000. If the 6% inflation rate continues, what will be the price of this item in 5 years? So which means we're going to assume that 6%, okay, yung 6% na inflation natin is true to the rest of the years. No? Ito yung, for example, ito yung 6% inflation ng first year, ganyan din yung inflation rate sa second year, ganyan din yung inflation rate sa third year, fourth year, hanggang sa fifth year, which is of course not somehow realistic. Ano? But anyway, for discussion purposes, we're going to assume that the 6% inflation rate is true to all the years identified. So 5 years in this case. Okay, so the future cost of that commodity or item is equal to, we have formula. So the future cost is equal to, we have the present cost is 5,000. What would be the cost of that item in 5 years? We have 1 plus the inflation rate, which is 6%, and is 5 years. So the future cost is 6,000. 691.128 pesos. Yan yung future cost niya. Okay? Ayan. So, kapag pwede mo nang bilhin yung item ngayon, bilhin mo na. No? Halimbawa, meron kang 5,000. Okay? At yung cost ng commodity ay 5,000 din. O, hindi mo siya binili ngayon. So, na-stuck yung 5,000 mo. So, after 5 years, gusto mong bilhin ulit yung item, pero ang cost niya ngayon ay 6,691 pesos na. You still have that 5,000. Hindi man siya pwedeng mabili. Unless you have invested 5,000 into invested sa may magandang investment, no? Okay. So, yan. That's how you compute for the future cost of the item or commodity. Let's proceed to the next problem. Okay, number 2. An economy is experiencing inflation at an annual rate of 8%. if this continues, what will 1,000 pesos be worth 2 years from now in terms of today's peso? So we're going to compute the purchasing power of 1,000 pesos after 2 years. Okay. So F is equal to okay, so we have the present value or present amount is 1,000. What would be its value after 2 years? So we have 1,000 divided by yung effect na inflation natin. So 1 plus. The inflation rate is 0.08. And we have 2 years period. So the future value, okay, of 1,000 after 2 years is equal to so 857.34 pesos. So yan yung value niya in terms of today's peso. Okay. So yan yung value niya after 2 years. Yan. So that's the effect of inflation dun sa purchasing power ng pera natin. Okay? And then number 3. Okay, next problem, the third one. Cislin has received 500,000 pesos from her employer for a patent disclosure. And she has decided to invest the money in a 15-year savings certificate that pays 8% per year compounded annually. What will be the final value of her investment in terms of today's peso if inflation continues at the rate of 6% per year? Okay, so si Cislin naka-discover o naka-invent ng something very useful siguro. And then present niya sa company, binigyan siya ng 500,000 para sa patent. Okay, and then she decided to invest the money in a 15-year savings certificate. You can ano tong 15-year savings certificate? I don't know if you've heard yung mga saving certificate na ganito, but some banks offer this kind of certificates, no. May mga cases na kapag yung bangko kailangan nila ng immediate na malaking pera, nag-offer sila ng saving certificate. Hindi lang bangko, so mga cooperatives, pag merong kailangang i-purchase agad na property or commodity, sometimes they offer their members saving certificate. Ayan. So we will collect this amount from you. Sabi nila, we will collect this amount from you, and then after 2 years, ito yung magiging value ng pera mo. So ayan, so may mga ganyang mga measures yung mga bangko, yung mga financial institutions natin. Okay. And then so yung bangko, it pays 8% per year. So kumikita ng 8% per year compounded annually. So we're going to compute for the value of her investment after 15 years, kasi 15 years yung saving certificate, in terms of today's peso. If we need to consider the effect of inflation na 6% per year. So again, yung formula na derive natin, that is true, is applicable only if the number of compounding is the same. Ano ba yung compounding? Yung interest natin is compounded annually, interest ng investment, at yung inflation, no? So discussion kanina na yung inflation usually is compounded annually, pero yung saving certificate, yung investment natin, so applicable lang yung formula na derive if it is also compounded annually. So kapag compounded quarterly or semi-annually yung investment natin, then you have to separately compute for the interest or the value of the investment, considering the interest and the value of the investment considering the inflation rate. Now, since they are both compounded annually, we can derive a simpler formula to compute for the value of the money or the investment. Yeah. So again, I repeat, okay, yung assumption natin sa formula ng derive natin to compute for the value, considering yung interest at inflation. Okay, yung assumption natin is that they are both compounded annually. So kapag separate yung number of compounding, then you have to compute the value of the investment in terms of yung interest, and then separate mo rin i-compute yung value niya in terms of the inflation rate. Okay? Yan. So let's compute for the value of the investment after 15 years. So we have F is equal to, so considering inflation and the interest, so 1 plus okay. Kung mapansin nyo yung formula natin, the future value is directly proportional dun sa ito, yung interest natin, because the value increases with yung earned interest per year ng investment, but it is inversely proportional dun sa inflation, no? Kasi because the value decreases with the effect of inflation. Okay, so we have, so our present value is 500,000. Interest rate natin is 0.08 or 8%. Inflation rate natin is 6%, and we're computing for the value of our investment after 15 years. So we have the future value would be yung 500,000 pesos natin after 15 years magiging 661,817.669 pesos in terms of today's peso, ano. Yan. So yan yung value ng pera natin. But later on, we will discover that there are other factors affecting the value of money, because our existing laws would somehow include taxes dun sa earned interest ng pera natin. So, we will try to include also the effect of taxes. Halimbawa, yung tubo ng pera mo ay 100,000 every year. So, may corresponding tax yon. Makakaltasan din yon ng certain amount, depende sa bracket, no? So, later on, our next topic would be the inclusion of taxes when we compute for the value of our investment or money. And you can also compute for the future worth or future value of our money using yung composite interest rate, no? So, using composite interest rate, we're going to compute yung effect ng inflation and yung interest. So, i-convert natin yan into a single term lang. Single term natin. Okay? So, the composite interest is equal to, we have I minus F divided by 1 plus F. Okay. So, we have interest natin is 8%, inflation rate natin is 0.06%, 1 plus yung inflation rate natin at 6%. So the composite interest, the combined effect of interest and inflation is equal to 0.01886792453. Sinunod ko lahat ng nasa calculator. Okay, or you can just round it off to assert 4 decimal places siguro. Pwede na. So, we compute for the future value using yung composite interest rate. We have So we have 500,000 times 1 plus, so you may include all of the digits here, which yun ang ginawa ko sa example. Raised to 15, so the future value should be the same, no? We have 661,817.669 pesos. So this would be the value of the investment in terms of today's money or peso. Ayan. So that's how you compute for the value of the investment using yung derived formula natin, or in terms of the composite interest rate, theta. Ito. Okay. Next. So that would be the last problem for this particular topic. Next would be tax. The effect of tax in our investment or money. Okay, let's proceed to the next topic. Okay. That is taxes or tax. I have, I think, discuss na kanina kung ano yung concept ng tax. So yung bawat interest or tubo na kinikita ng investment natin, no, meron siyang corresponding tax. So ito yung how we compute for the tax. That is yung tax rate natin, depende kung anong bracket yon. So pwedeng may 20% yata, merong 32%, no, na bracket, depende sa kinikita ng investment. So yung tax rate times yung investment natin. Okay, so how do you compute for the interest, yung return o yung interest na kikitain natin after taxes? So babawas natin yung kumita yung pera, yung investment ng certain amount of interest, ibawasan natin ng tax. So how do you compute that? So subtract lang natin interest minus yung tax natin. Okay, so yan yung kinita natin after taxes. Okay, so that would if you are going to consider the effect of tax, the interest dun sa investment natin plus yung inflation. So tatlong factors na to, no? Yung taxes, yung interest, at saka yung inflation. Okay, the composite interest rate then, theta, is equal to this, you know, value. So ayan. So again, theta can be negative. Theta can be negative, no? Because of the effects of inflation and taxes. So pag negative yung theta, yung composite ko natin, ibig sabihin lugi ka doon, no? Lugi ka doon sa investment na yan. So before you invest something sa isang offer na investment, before you invest a certain amount of money, then you should be considering yung mga factors kung kikita ba yan o hindi, no? So ayan. So with the effect of taxes, interest rate, and inflation, this would be our composite interest rate, theta. Now let's try to solve the problem we have solved a while ago dun sa previous topic natin na inflation rate. Okay? So kanina, let me just read to you na lang para ma-refresh. Okay, Sislin has received 500,000 pesos from her employer for a patent disclosure. Hindi ko na sinulat yung problem kasi medyo mahaba. So she has decided to invest the money in a 15-year saving certificate that pays 8% per year. So yun, ang kinikita niya is 8% per year, compounded annually. Suppose she is in the 32% tax bracket. So 30% yung tax natin. And is likely to remain there throughout the lifetime of the certificate, which is 15 years. So matataksan siya until the end of 15 years. Okay. If inflation continues at the rate of 6% per year, what will be the value of her investment in terms of today's peso when the certificate matures? After the After 15 years, the certificate matures, then what would be the value with all of these effects, yung tax, interest, and then inflation rate. So this would be the following given. So we have principal is 500,000, 15 years yung period natin. Interest rate ng investment is 8%. Tax ay malaki, that's 32%. Inflation rate at 6%. So we can compute for the composite interest rate, which combines the effect of taxes, interest, and the inflation rate. We see theta is equal to 1 minus t I minus f divided by 1 plus the inflation rate. So the composite interest rate is equal to, so we have 1 minus yung tax rate natin is 32% in decimal form times yung interest rate natin na 8% minus 6% na inflation rate. So 1 plus divided by 1 plus 0.06 na inflation rate natin. So the composite interest rate, again, yung composite interest rate is the combined effect of inflation, taxes, and the interest of the investment. So sabi ko kanina, pwedeng maging negative yung composite interest. So pag negative yan, lugi ka dyan. Okay. So that is 5.28 or is equivalent to so this is the composite interest rate. So the future value then of the investment is equal to present cost is 500,000. Negative yung composite interest rate natin. Bracket na lang ito. Okay. Composite interest rate period is 15 years. So that the future value in terms of today's peso is equivalent to 461,807,605 pesos. Okay? Yung okay. So 500,000 naging 461,000 na lang. So luging-lugi kayo yung investment natin. Kapag may inclusion ng tax, medyo malaki yung tax bracket is 32%. Okay. So yan yung effect niya. So you should look into this major factors when you are trying to invest some amount of money to a certain product or commodity. Okay, so that's the effect of taxes. And I think we still have one more problem. So this problem, because of the combined effects of inflation and taxation, our composite interest rate is negative, and Shislin ends up with less real purchasing power after 15 years than he has or she has today. So to make matters worse, she will most likely to have to pay taxes on the original 500,000, substantially reducing the amount of money available for investment. No? Sometimes kapag may nag-receive ka ng 500,000 kasi, may dinideduct pa yan na tax niya. Okay. For example, pag nanalo ka ng premyo, for example, prize meron pang corresponding tax yan. So most likely hindi talaga yan 500,000 pag invest mo, may bawas pa yan because of taxes. Ayan. So yung purchasing power ng pera ni Sislin ay bumaba because of taxes and inflation. So you need to look into those factors when you are investing your money. Let's try to solve one more problem and then we're done with this particular topic. Okay, number 2, I will no longer write the entire problem. I will just be reading and identifying the given items in the problem. So number 2, let the inflation rate be 6% per year. A person deposits 250,000 in a bank account of 9% per annum. Okay? So kumikita siya ng 9% per year. So compounded annually for 10 years. The individual is in the 35% tax bracket and pays taxes on all interest received. So lahat ng interest na marireceive niya ay merong corresponding tax and he or she needs to pay it. Is the purchasing power of the original principal effectively protected? Okay. What will be the value of the investment in terms of today's peso after 10 years? And so, yung purchasing power ba ng 250,000 after 10 years protected with the following factors? Yung inflation na 6%, kumikita siya ng 9% per year na interest, and then yung tax na 35%. Medyo malaki yung tax niya. So, let's see kung protected ng 9% per year na investment yung kanyang initial investment ng 250,000. So let's solve for the composite interest rate. That is 1. So, quantity 1 minus t times I minus f divided by 1 plus f. So we have 1 minus 0.35 or 35% yung tax times 9% yung yung interest ng investment natin or ng person involved minus 0.06 yung inflation divided by 1 plus the inflation rate. So the composite interest rate is equal to negative. So ibig sabihin kapag negative ito, automatic the investment or the purchasing power of the investment is not protected. So, wag kang mag-invest. You ask for more percentage dun sa may interest natin so that ma-counter yung effect ng inflation and the tax, no? Unless of course in 10 years mag-iba yung tax bracket, merong certain laws na may papasa to lower the taxes or kaya naman yung inflation rate natin ay mag-improve, bababa yung inflation rate. So we do not know. But with these assumptions, the investment is not protected. Yung purchasing power ng investment is not protected. So the composite interest rate is equal to negative 0.0014151. Okay? So ito yung hindi siya protected. Sabi ko na. And then we also ask to solve for the future value in terms of today's peso. So we simply, dito na lang natin. So 250,000 yung principal. 1 plus yung interest, composite interest rate natin na negative. So that would be equal to 246,484.6934 pesos. That's the future value. Compare mo yan sa initial yung principal natin na 250,000. So bumaba yung kanyang value. Okay? So the investment is definitely not protected. So you ask or demand for more interest. Dyan. Okay, so that's it. Our last topic for this particular chapter is annuity.